be taken by Deputy Eamon Ryan. 30 seconds.
Minister, you're forever saying you don't have responsibility for anything, but in the implementation of a national cycle policy framework, I believe you are the person responsible. And unfortunately, we set ourselves as target by 2020, 10% of all trips will be bike. In fact, it's less than 3%. And nothing's happening. Safe routes to schools, not happening. Demonstration towns, not happening. Major infrastructure, nothing happening. Not a single cycle project happening at the moment. When are we going to start taking cycling seriously and implement or ensure in your department, in your job, that the policy that is there to promote cycling is actually implemented? Because at the moment, nothing is happening.
Thank you. The Minister's 2 minutes.
Well, I obviously reject what you say, Deputy Ryan, and it flies in the face of the evidence, but it's a mantra which I've heard from you so often that I don't expect you to reverse on it in the face of the evidence. Just keep saying it and some people will believe you. I'm somewhat surprised by the Deputy's claim that the majority of actions under the National Cycle Policy Framework are not being implemented. Obviously, as the Deputy will appreciate, the economic and financial crisis which accompanied the publication of the framework in 2009 impacted on the levels of public expenditure available, but that is very different to asserting implementation is not ongoing. And similarly, the Deputy will also appreciate that the economic and financial situation today is vastly different to that of 2009 and subsequent years. As Minister, I've secured significantly improved multi-annual funding out to 2021 for active travel measures which will be used to support the ongoing implementation of the framework. This improved funding includes £110 million specifically dedicated to cycling and walking infrastructure in our major urban areas, £135 million for sustainable urban transport measures, and £750 million towards the Bus Connects programme in Dublin, which will include delivery of around 200 kilometres of segregated cycling lanes where possible. That's pretty good. I don't know what you've got to complain about there. It's just not enough for you, but it's one hell of an improvement. We also have £53 million to support the development of new greenways in more rural areas, in line with the recently published Greenway strategy. As the National Cycling Framework contains 19 objectives, with 109 supporting actions, all developed against 6 broad themes, which are planning and infrastructure, communication, education, financial resources, legislation enforcement, people, evaluation and effects. And of course, the Deputy is aware that there are a range of bodies responsible for the implementation of the various actions. These include my department, other government departments, local authorities and the NTA. But I recognise, obviously, my department's overarching responsibility
the remainder will be in
for the policy in this area.
The remainder will be in the official report. Deputy.
There isn't a single person out there, I think, with an interest in this issue would think that the way we're managing the promotion of cycling is working. I mean, I really don't think there is a single person who would side with you in that argument. And I could go down through the litany of examples of where in action, the Liffey cycle route, in planning for 6 years. And it's nothing to do with the financial crash that's not gone ahead. It's a lack of political will. And that's coming from the centre. That's coming in part because from the department and from your own office. The College Green Plaza, again, the problem with that was there was a traffic management plan done by Borpanola. It was still based on incredible car-based centred system. Safe routes to cycling schools. Finglas councillors voted against putting in such provisions, which are policy, in the new development plan, in new schools. You and your department did nothing about it. That was in the last 2 years.
Oh my God.
South Dublin Cycleway, Quiet Cycleway was proposed, which would really promote cycling in the south side of the city. Again, it was blocked, and you and your department did nothing about it.
You'll have another opportunity.
There's not a single cycling project being built. There's nothing happening.
Minister, 1 minute.
I don't know, Deputy Ryan. I sometimes give up. You have a lot to complain about, I know. Nothing is ever quite right. When progress is made, you don't acknowledge it, but other people do. Other people who are very keen advocates for cycling do so. The VeloCity conference is coming to Dublin next year, I think, isn't that right? It's organised by the European Cyclist Federation, isn't that right? Correct. The series director of that after choosing to come to Dublin, said Dublin is a great example of a city moving towards a more livable, safe and active environment for its citizens. I accept that, applaud it. I accept the fact that others apart from yourself recognise that we here in Ireland have bought into the cycling story, that we are doing things, that the percentage of cyclists as commuters is going up, that we have committed to 200 kilometres of dedicated, segregated cycling lanes in the future.
Second supplementary.
That we are doing, many of the things that you advocated.
Deputy Ryan, second supplementary.
Many of those things which you advocated back in 2009.
Minister.
If we were at 10% of all trips on bike, I'd say fine, something's happening, but we're not. And there is a huge demand, pent-up demand. It would take off if we actually had some political leadership. And I'll be honest, Minister, there's real embarrassment in the cycling community about the prospect of VeloCityCon, which I've been to, and it's a great conference, but we actually now have a very embarrassing situation that we have VeloCity coming here with nothing, I mean nothing, happening on the ground. And I hope it might steer a change in your department and in your mind that actually you need to scale up the ambition. And in scaling up the ambition, there's all sorts of benefits, economic benefits, environmental benefits, social health benefits. But the truth is, there are more schoolgirls driving themselves to school than cycling in this country at the moment. The conditions on the roads in this city and every city in the country are atrocious, Minister. And you need to do something about it, rather than pretending it's all going fine.
Short supplementary from Deputy Troy.
Minister, all I'd say is engage with the cycling activists here nationally, and they will not praise the work you're doing in relation to this regard. Just look, since you became Minister, the funding for cycling infrastructure in 2015 was 19 million. In 2018, it's 8 million, according to your own reply to me. In writing, you sent that to me. Can I ask just very simply, the statutory instrument in relation to the minimum passing distance for cycling, and I see Minister Doherty coming in, she'd be interested to know, you promised that it was going to come in immediately in February of this year. Have you signed it? Or if you haven't, when will you?
Sir, final.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. Let me just repeat to Deputy Ryan that you can quote whoever you like, but they've chosen Dublin for the conference, for the cycling conference. They've applauded Dublin as a city which is going in the right direction in cycling. It may be very inconvenient for you, but when you set out on that road in 2009, which is what you mentioned here, or your colleague has mentioned here, you were sitting in government at the time. You're sitting in government bankrupting the country at the time. And the reason why it couldn't be implemented as quickly as possible is because you and your Fianna Fáil friends were sitting in government together as the country was going down the financial tubes. It could never have been afforded. But what we are doing is we're acknowledging quite happily that what you produced as a plan was a very good one. The Greens in government were good at one thing. That was producing plans. They couldn't deliver on anything. Unfortunately, they couldn't deliver on anything at all.
Okay, we're going to move on. Final question.
No doubt, you have ambitions to get your chance again.
Minister, we concentrate on the question. Minimum passing distance. Minimum passing distance.
Yeah, that is. I've already told the Deputy the answer to that question.
Oh, you've answered.
We will be replacing that with a dangerous overtaking offence.
Now we move.